Goeienaand Eden FM luisteraars, dis nog 'n episode van Ons Sit Koppe Bymekaar en vanaand gesels ek Hans van der Veen met 'n besonderse gas wat hier ook in Oudtshoorn woon, 'n kunstenaar, Susqya Williams. Goeienaand Susqya.
Hello Hans and listeners.
Thank you for making time to come talk to us. And for the listeners that's maybe not familiar with Susqya Williams, she's been an artist for 50 years. Her claims are long, but I'm just going to mention a few. In 1988, a lifetime back, she was already Sage Life's Artist of the Year. At that stage, she had a retrospective exhibition of her works at the old Rand Afrikaans University. She's done 15 exhibitions, 32 commissions, and the list goes on. But tonight we're not so much going to speak to her about the art, but more about who she is as a person, the practices that she's been following to be able to continue art for so long. So, Susqya, your name, Susqya, there's no U, or the U is not in the place after the Q, like it would normally be in the dictionary. Just tell us a little bit about your name. Where does it come from?
Well, it's perhaps one could say Eastern European, but also could be of Indian origin. It was the spelling, I think, that is confusing. Rembrandt's wife, her name was Susqya. She spelled Saskkia, but we decided to use a different spelling. And I did change my name to Susqya in the late 80s.
Okay, so that yeah.
It was a name change, yes.
So you chose a name that fitted your identity.
Yes, and my personality and my life, really. Yeah, definitely.
I was going to ask you, have you been true to your name? But I think you've already answered that now.
I think so. No, definitely. And far more true to who I am and how I function.
Yeah. What are you saying now? It's almost like that you a name it's quite rare to change your name, eh? And for artists,
I think it is. Yeah. And at my age, it was also quite unusual to change my name. But I was happier, outgoing person when I changed my name, and I just enjoyed being who I was far more than I did as Eileen. And no one ever called me by my name, ever. They called me Nina and all kinds of funny names. So I decided one day, reading about Rembrandt, I thought, that's the name I like. And right there and then, birth certificate, the full catastrophe was changed to Susqya Williams.
So you were almost, you shed old skin and you became, were you really were?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was almost, it became part of the reinventing my life. And that's why I landed up in the Karoo. I left Johannesburg after many years of teaching and a lot of tapestries that I'd woven, commission work, and my children had grown up. They were finished with university, left the country, and my son was in Mpumalanga doing his thing, and I decided it was my turn. So came down to the coast and just absolutely fell in love with the Karoo, although I'd been here when I was very young, and I always remembered the Karoo. I grew up on a flower farm for the first 6 years of my life, And I think the outdoors was really very much part of me. I didn't like city life at all. And I think the work I do also gives me the space to be exactly who I am and not have to be the office girl or the right person in as secretary or I can be an artist. I can be me.
Yeah. Is that what an artist is? Is that you choose to be me, and also making a living, obviously, from
that of
from
course
being
becomes
me.
the huge issue. Big issue, of course, is as an artist to make a living, and out of sheer determination, I made it work. And my first commission came from a solo exhibition that I had at Leachy Gallery in those days, Bree Street. And I got a commission from the Johannesburg Teachers Training College for their boardroom, I think it was. It wasn't a big tapestry, but it set the ball rolling. And for the next 25 years, even longer, I carried on with commission work. In between, I did my own work, own designs, as it were, and they too were successful in being sold, and I made a good living.
Yeah, Susqya, I want to interrupt you here in terms of your artistic journey. I saw that you started off by starting art, and then you did a course in applied arts, textiles, and then you did a 1974 to 1976 design and weaving skills. You started developing that. What drew you into weaving and design? That's it's unusual for artists to choose weaving as the way of expressing themselves.
I think it was a case of I was trained as a designer, graphic designer, but also in the fine arts. And when I explored textile, I was working at the art school as a volunteer in the textile department. And it was from that I was influenced with thread and textiles and textile design. So it was really from that my career, well, it didn't really switch, but it expanded into thread and subsequently, of course, the tapestry weaving. I did a very short 8 sessions weaving, learning to do the basics. And there was a blind woman in the group, and she was just her being and her determination and her handling of yarn was so beautiful. I think it inspired me to explore thread even further. And then from there, I developed working with thread, with fiber, and I did some prints, some textile prints, but I needed texture, and I needed to be more involved with what I was making. Perhaps an element of craftsmanship was there, and I loved crafting the tapestry, the structure of tapestry, and of course the thread plays the main very big part of tapestry is the handling of thread,
Yeah.
color, the quality of thread. So the tactile element of
Yeah.
weaving became very important to me.
Yeah, the tactile element, that definitely it stands out. And both Liza Grobler and Louise Venter was talking, friends of yours and artistic community, talking about that you actually paint with threads. And for the listeners that can't see this now, behind Susqya is a tapestry that doesn't look like a tapestry, it looks like a painting. And we will share this video on YouTube, and I want to invite you to go have a look. It's just completely it blows your mind that threads can look like a painting. That's yeah. So it wasn't a conscious decision that I want to go into weaving it. You did like this short course and got inspiration there, and then you started exploring it, and it just grew.
It expanded, yes, and very naturally,
Yeah.
which I think was why I could pursue it as an art form. I've always painted
Yeah.
from art school days, but I think it was the textile element and the tactile
Yeah.
element of thread that really I could manipulate. I had more choice in what I was doing with the thread. My threads were not just one thread ever, they were mixed. Sometimes I had up to 20 threads in one thread. But when I talk about 20 threads, it's cotton threads. Sewing cotton, if you put 20 of those threads together, you have a good thread. And very often it was a mixture that of colors that created the color that I wanted. And of course, I got the right thickness of the thread. And one thing that I really was very serious and conscious of was I worked with wool, linen, cotton, and synthetic threads.
Okay.
So out of those four, I always had a choice of the quality of the thread. And very often with the synthetic thread, there was a shine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it also elevated the color of a thread. So, and it gave it structure. If you use just wool, it's very soft. And yes, you can use karakul and heavier threads, but they are not as delicate to work with in terms of color as thin threads. You can have 6 yellow and 2 green and 1 shiny blue. And you'll be amazed what those together, the colors you get from the color that is generated from mixing a group of threads like that. Or you can have 6 blue and 1 red and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of my great loves, was the
Color.
creating color through thread.
Susqya, even now during this interview, I noticed like a willingness to play, and play and creativity is I think almost very close together, eh? Yeah, and the other remark that you made was saying that it was just like a natural decision of exploring this, and you really walked this path and took the turn-offs, and you're sitting now.
I didn't mix many techniques. I stuck to quite serious tapestry techniques.
Okay.
For me, the inspiration was the creating of thread into shapes that I could manipulate and play with on the surface that I wove or was weaving, structuring.
Yeah.
I
Saskia,
hope that makes sense.
yeah, it does make sense. The time runs and we need to take a short advert break. We're going to play a song of your choice, ABBA song, Knowing You, Knowing Me. And after the break, we return to continue this conversation. Luisteraars, ons luister na Ons Sit Koppe Bymekaar en ons gesels met die plaaslike kunstenaar Susqya Williams oor haar lewe. Susqya, Liza Grobler, a fellow artist, spoke about you having 3 threads in your life. The weaving, the painting, the exhibition that's at Beans Café, and I also want to invite the listeners to please go visit Beans Café in Church Street and go look at the exhibition of Susqya's paintings. It's up there. It's running until February. So the second thread being the paintings, and then the third thread is your journaling. And as a psychologist, I'm interested to hear about the role that journaling played in your life.
Well, yes, journaling. Gosh, it's a medium that is used throughout the world now, and it's very popular. And it is such a all-purpose way of working with one's own mind and working with words, working with play. Journaling is a very playful thing, can be. It can be a very serious thing. My earliest journals were sketches, more sketches than really working with color and writing. I think the first serious bit of writing I ever did was when my brother was killed. And since then, every now and then, the journaling, the need to write down my thoughts came up. And I think the older I've become, the more in love I've fallen with words. I love words. So it was a huge development in my work, not only for the painting or the weaving, but for a personal growth. Journaling became a wonderful medium. So there have been times where I've journaled every day for a couple of months. Very often journaled when life was being a little difficult and I was confused. I was sad, or I was at a dead end in my work. I didn't know what to do next, or who to go to, or where to find it. I always knew where to find it, but the spirit is a strange thing. Sometimes it hides away and one just forgets that all you have to do is go into the garden and look at the plants and touch and admire the colors, and you can change your whole mindset. And I discovered that, and then I would go inside again and perhaps journal something that I've recognized in my little wander into the garden. I think journaling is very easy because it's available. It's a pencil, it's a paper, and it's putting your mind, your thoughts on paper. Sometimes it looks like gibberish. It doesn't make much sense. But other times, the penny drops, and I always find it's a huge clarification of thinking. Our minds are so busy and so confused that the moment you put something down on the paper, you've clarified a thought or an intention or an emotion. And it's a wonderful medium to. You don't have to be an artist. You just have to be able to put things down in words, or even speak words. The journaling, and it's a very broad game that one can play, from painting, from cooking. You can journal your cooking. If you love cooking, journal it. Make it an interesting book, not just the odd recipes and recipes. Use collage, find pictures, add to it. It's playful. It can be very playful. Children love collage. My children were introduced to collage very young. And that was just about sticking pieces of paper down and telling me what the story was on that picture. It's a great expansion of the mind.
Yeah. So it's you've been practicing this sort of reflective, contemplative process for decades, for more than one lifetime.
Maybe.
Yeah, but what struck me now, you're talking about going into the garden and finding, can I say, God in nature for you? Is that where you find? I'm not sure what your spiritual beliefs are, but is that for you a connection
I think
to the sacred?
My spiritual aspect and sacredness of life is in nature. Nature offers you everything that you need. You need no more to be inspired, and a willingness to open up to be inspired.
Yeah.
Might sound a bit complicated, but
no.
If you're wandering in the garden and you just for one moment stop thinking about the job change. Just look at the plant, or touch an aloe or a prickly leaf, or it's almost a distraction. Journaling can become a distraction from the intensity of serious moments and decisions and grief. Grief is a big one. Become more familiar with perhaps what your directions are. You have to play to discover and explore.
You have to play to discover and explore, and
well, perhaps it should be the other way, to explore and discover.
Yeah. There's a saying that artist can only capture what he or she can see, and for me, the journaling sounds almost.
His mind? What about his thinking?
Yeah, but so so I'm referring to this quote as it's not only visible but invisible as well. So by the journaling, you're almost expanding your awareness of yourself and your surroundings. And I love some of the exhibitions that you had, the titles that you chose. I see in 2008 your solo exhibition at the KKNK was named Interior Landscape. And that has been very much part of Susqya's journey, the traveling the interior landscape.
Yes, it absolutely. That's where the inspiration comes from, the interior. It's the interpretation of what you see. if you don't see, you feel. So we can also feel and interpret that feeling, which is another way of expression.
Yeah.
Expressing.
Yeah, feelings being, it's also a form of expressing.
But it comes through the mind.
Oh. And you can express your feelings in your art.
Absolutely. And my playfulness with color and my absolute enjoyment of it, I suppose at the end of the day, I can say I'm a happy person because I give full expression to who I am. Sometimes life kind of gets in the way. You just have to be human and do what you have to do. But the creative aspect, the happiness, doesn't go away. It just is distracted for a while, for a moment, or delayed, put it that way. That was always frustrating when I was working on very big tapestries and I wanted to paint. I had to delay that process of painting and spontaneity of painting to finish the work that my job, which was really the tapestry. I say it was my job because I earned my living through my work. I was very blessed to be able to do that. And physically, I was strong enough to be for 40 years.
Yeah. Yes, the discipline of the tapestry, I mean, like that's many hours compared to painting. The speed at which you can complete a painting versus the speed at which you and for the listeners, the tapestries that Susqya made were often meters, many square meters. I remember that Ingrid Jonker piece that was displayed, I think was it in 1999 at the KKNK. It was probably two. Can you not hear me now?
No, all right, carry on.
Okay. Yeah, the Ingrid Jonker piece, was it about 2 meters high, that tapestry?
4 square meters.
4 square meters, so massive. And how long did you work on that piece, for instance?
I worked on that one for about 8 months. It was very intricate because of the working with features, with the face, and there was very little abstraction in that one. It was really a portrait of Ingrid Jonker. And then a bit of illustration roundabout, but it was an abstract illustration.
You've I see you were born in 1939, 2 months after the Second World War started. So that, if I may say, it makes you 83 years young or old, whichever way you want to look at it, but with a lot of life experiences. And I would really like to hear from you. And, like, it's so hard to ask someone, what lessons have I learned from life, Susqya? But if we can try and speak about that, but we're first going to take a music and an advert break, and then after the break we will speak on that. Listeners, we're going to listen to Lorika Raag. Luisteraars, ons gesels vanaand met 'n baie interessante mens, Susqya Williams, kunstenaar hier in Oudtshoorn. Sy beplan om volgende jaar in Nelspruit omgewing Mpumalanga toe te verhuis na 25 jaar in Oudtshoorn, maar ons het al gelukkig vasgekeer gekry vanaand en sy's 'n gas hier by Ons Sit Koppe Bymekaar. Voor die breek het Susqya, we asked you about life lessons that you've learned during your time here on Earth, and if you can share a little bit about that with us, please.
Gosh, well, life's lessons have brought me to this moment. One could say it's I think one of the most important things or aspects of who I've discovered one of my traits was perseverance. I never ever gave up. Even as a very young child, I persevered in everything, as long as it was a creative process. When it came to schoolwork, it was difficult for me, but I got through school and I did the whole bit. And in my work, and that element of perseverance has been integral in terms of weaving tapestries. Many hours of work, many hours. And my biggest concerns in my life were my children and my work. And I think the children learned a huge amount of this element of perseverance. And also a need to be creative, to make things, to see things grow, and when I worked with my children, I taught quite a lot, young children, there is so much potential in perseverance, because you'll stumble across something new, something you didn't realize was right there, but you've got to keep at it. And there are moments, I think every artist will have this experience where you're working on something and you reach a dead end and you think, what now? Shall I begin again? I have the wrong idea what I'm doing, and I'm not following what I want to do. Very often you just have to push a little further and you discover, no, it would be the right thing to start again, or a whole new possibility opens up on your canvas. Life is a series of possibilities. Good, bad, indifferent, happy, sad. It's life. We can choose. If we've got a serious problem, we choose to either persevere and get through it, or maybe change direction, which I sometimes think is perhaps the right thing to do, but many times you just take your problem with you into the next scenario. Whereas if you choose to work with something, work it to its death, and then you will know whether it's the right choice to make a change or not. When I say work it to death, there does come a point. They talk about writer's block or artist's block. It is just that. You either stop, take your walk in the garden, have your cup of coffee, whatever you do to break that intensity. Our minds are so busy, so busy, and more so in this day and age. When do we rest our minds? When we actually change direction, even if it is just for 5 minutes, for a moment. You go back to it, and it's not the same because that moment's gone by. I like to live in the moment. I think that's something I've learned about perseverance is it's easy to give up, but it's work to persevere.
Yeah, sure. Susqya, and growing older, how do you experience that? I mean, like that's something that I can say you can say it's a privilege to grow 83 years old. But for you, how do you think, how do you live that?
That's a very big question, Hans, and I think it's an eternal question. Everybody
Mm,
who's
mm,
aging asks that same question. Um, I do think we have a choice in aging. Yes, it's not fun. I look at my face and I think, oh, got so many wrinkles. Um, but then I look around and I see, yeah, everybody's got wrinkles who are my age. But then one, in seriousness, you think about life and the life you've lived, and there isn't time to get old because there's still so much to do.
mm, mm,
I'm moving now and relocating, and I have a project plan for when I move. So every now and then, when I feel very sad about leaving the Karoo, I think of my project,
mm,
and it inspires me because it's very direct. It's what I do. I create painting or thread. That's
mm,
that's my craft. That is who I am. And perhaps because I've done it for so many years, my lessons have come from that element of perseverance and not just giving up. You just can't give up a tapestry when you're halfway through and your client is jumping up and down and saying, when is it going to be ready? And you've
the
already
wall
been
is.
at it 3 months,
Yeah.
So it's the journey. It's part of the journey. Well, when you go on holiday, the journey has its moments. And
Yeah.
when the journey becomes rough, yes, thank goodness these days you've got a cell phone. You can phone the garage and say the tire's flat or whatever. But um, you've got a choice. You can sit on the roadside and feel sorry for yourself or do something about it. Even summer lift to the next town. There's an answer to everything. There's a choice.
Yeah. What I hear when you speak is that this is who I am. This is what is there's like for me a very fundamental sort of acceptance of this is who I am, and this is the moment I'm living in. And also I also hear when you talk about earlier on, you spoke about reinventing yourself, of learning new things, trying new things. And I know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, that wrote a lot about death, said that learning is the one thing we can do right till the end. Like death even being the final stage of growth, and I hear that you're really choosing this path of growing. And if you can also just maybe speak about, how do you reinvent yourself, Susqya? What is it that you do? I
What did
see
I
there's an
do to
openness.
reinvent myself? I think um, I was forced to change attitude because of my circumstance. I had to come out of my shell and be friendly and sweet and nice to people. Um, it wasn't. It was not really. I was always a fun person, but never um, trivial. Trivial.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think I say reinvent. I discovered things about myself in the perseverance to survive that were very exciting. Very exciting, and not necessarily in my, well, as an artist, you develop all the time, you never stop. You perhaps go deeper into your work, if anything. But reinventing is about attitude and the way one chooses to see the world. And understand, understanding is a huge word. Compassion is understanding. There's a man sitting on the pavement, and he's hungry and he's begging, and that's his journey. And to understand that, where he's at, that's his journey, and that's how he's become who he is. Perhaps it's a little extreme to say that, to talk about a beggar on the street, but we have choices, and I think it's about choices that will steer the journey into one of growth and spiritual well-being, because you've got to take the bumps and the dips as well as the happy times. I mean, life. What is the word happy? What does that mean? When you're happy, you're contented. You have everything you need. We need so little, and yet we're all chasing after more. And that's a choice. Do we really need to buy whatever, an extra Coke or another sweetie or whatever? I don't know. I suppose I live close to the ground. I like to live when it's necessary, with necessity, rather than
opulence.
Trivia. Yes. Because really, the earth offers everything, the planet. Nature offers everything you need. And I'm not talking necessarily about material things. I'm talking about a mindset.
So you make time to spend time in nature, to let that, the energy that you get from nature to flow, to recharge you.
Yeah.
And that might be walking in the garden, or it could be driving off somewhere and stopping next to the road and walking into the veld. What does it look like?
Well, it could even look like an old woman walking down the street and having great difficulty in walking. Understanding that, that's where she's at.
Yeah.
And, there I walk perfectly well and happily. I think about life a lot. I'm very aware of my environment, my surroundings. It's not all about just me. That sounds weird to say that, because we do think about ourselves a lot. But we have a choice of how we think about ourselves and what we do with what we have, with our gifts, with life. And this gets very complicated and very deep.
Yeah. What do you hope for the world, for the future? What do you hope for the world will look like in a generation, 2 generations from now? What do you hope for?
Well, that's a huge question, but I would like to see more understanding between people, and I would like to see the world slow down a bit and facing some sort of reality. Everything's become so abstract. Everything's happening out there. It's not happening in me, but it actually is. Because if you're watching the news and you're seeing what's going on, it's a huge distraction from well, here I am, and I'm okay, but can I help? If I have that urge to help, yes, there are ways of helping, but yeah, I think we need more understanding and more, what's the word, tolerance. We need more tolerance of each other. You know, I think there's a lot of goodwill in this country, which I really do admire and gives me hope that the level of tolerance it's not as defined as it used to be. Perhaps it's even more defined, but it's more general. I love to see people mix and communicate and talk about the same things. When you're standing in the queue at Checkers, you can, and the child is jumping up and down and wanting this. He's no different from your kid who, 10 years ago was doing the same thing. We're all people. We're all. So I can get very deep into that and understanding, comprehending, trying. It's a wonderful way of thinking because you're thinking positive. You're thinking. You're making choices. And I think making choices when learned a huge amount. Life, you learn every day. You learn every moment. Like I've just learned something today.
Well, Susqya, it's beautiful to listen to you. I think your words you've weaved as a beautiful piece of art of Susqya's life that I have here in my head, and I think us as listeners, the time has run out, and yeah, just a great thank you very much for sharing all these personal deep stuff with us, and I believe it will be valuable to our listeners as well. I don't know whether there's any something final that you would like to say before we play out with Teens Jordaan.
Well, I just think that if I have anything to say, it would be tolerant and persevere.
Be tolerant and persevere.
And be tolerant. Those are my thoughts for today.
Thank you, Susqya. So if you want to see some of Susqya's artworks, visit Beans Café in Church Street. Still showing until February. Have a beautiful week, luisteraars, en ons speel uit met Teens Jordaan. So my huis is waar my hart is, in die klein Karoo. Mooi aand.
Thank you. Thank you.